I'm sitting here right now, and where I sit right now is absolutely no different than where I was sitting. And I'm not talking about the physical of me sitting down in this spot as I am weekly. Where I sit in terms of the Steelers and how the season ended is no different than where I was sitting with them when they beat Cleveland at home Monday night, when they beat Baltimore on the road the last game of the season. Really where I've kind of been with them throughout the whole season. And what I mean by that is them losing last night did not change a single thing in terms of really how I was feeling as this season went on. This isn't a feeling where this was 2017, where this team was the number 2 seed in the AFC, getting a bye week, one of the best teams in the NFL, and they lose at home to Jacksonville. It's not one of those things at all. That's what I'm talking about. This is the type of feeling where there's no disappointment. You know, what happens, happens. Just kind of enjoying it, enjoying the final ride. That's really what it's been all year long and even last night's game. I think for anybody that went into last night's game with any kind of expectations from this team, you're definitely going to be disappointed, and as you were disappointed, but you're probably going to be feeling maybe a little bit more upset, sadder, mad, more mad than where I'm at. I'm not even mad. I wasn't even mad with what happened last night. This is something, folks, where this is the team we've had all year long. Okay? It doesn't matter if they played the Chiefs in the playoffs. Doesn't matter who they played in the playoffs. It wouldn't have changed who this team is. This team wasn't going to enter the playoffs and just flip a switch and just be like, man, where's this team been all year? And, you know, this is looking like the best team in the freaking NFL right now, making a run for the Super Bowl. It's not like that. I went in the game with zero expectations because, like I said, I was honestly just wanting to enjoy the final ride of Big Ben. That's really been my perspective the whole season. So for those that were expecting them to upset Kansas City or for them to score 30 plus points again, like that's a very, very unrealistic expectation there. Could anything have happened? Absolutely. Heck, the first quarter of the game had some kind of hope into it. But when you go in not expecting anything, you're at the end of the result, you're going to be feeling okay. And that's where I'm sitting, and hopefully you guys are too. This is In Hindsight, everybody. Episode 50. This is officially the 50th episode of this podcast. And I will continue on with what I'm saying, but as you guys kind of follow the pod, and as for those who have been, hold on one second. I need to get new cameras. I'm sorry, folks. For those that have been following this since day one, I thank each and every one of you. This is something I've been wanting to do for years, is have my own podcast and just talk my mind about sports. Pittsburgh sports, obviously, because that's my heart. But everything going on in the sports world in general. And I finally did it come May of 2021. Started off on Spotify for a few months, strictly that. And kind of had the idea of once we started transitioning into July, into the summer, I want to transition it to YouTube because I feel like YouTube's probably where I'm going to gain my most audience from. So we've been on YouTube since, I believe, the first week of July. And we've been doing shows pretty much weekly for the most part. Not every day. And I realize it's going to take a long time to grow. YouTube has their own algorithm and everything like that. But to each and every one of you from day one that supported the podcast, it means everything to me. Just taking time out of your day to listen, taking time out of your day to listen to what I have to say. And those who came along the ride a week ago, who came on the ride a month ago, when we first kind of got it into YouTube, or a little bit after we did, whenever, each and every one of you, whether you were there from the start, whether you're there now, you just came in a week ago, a month ago, a couple months ago, so it doesn't matter. Each and every one of you, I truly thank you for supporting the podcast, subscribing, hitting the thumbs up, and just taking time out of your evenings to listen to me talk. Really, it's really appreciative, man. And each and every one of you, I want continually along the ride as we grow this, because obviously that's my ultimate goal, is to keep growing this. And I hope YouTube pushes things out and we can just keep reaching sport fans, man. It doesn't matter who you're a fan of, whatever sport it is. It doesn't matter. I love sports talk and having different opinions or debates or just conversing with people who just love, sports, man. Who are competitive too. I love it. But I just wanted to give a thanks out there, and especially with it being episode 50. I mean, definitely kind of a milestone in the sense of the podcast. We've done 50 episodes. But hopefully you guys are having a good Monday, as we are usually here on Mondays. My schedule still stays the same. The only time just things conflict is if it's work or there's things going on personally that I can't commit to here. But like I said, if this was a full-time gig, obviously it would be completely different. But hopefully you guys understand that. You guys can follow me at Nate_Heintz on Twitter, Nathan_Heintz on Instagram, at InHeintz on Facebook to keep up with all things on the channel, or to just interact with me and follow me. It doesn't matter. I'm a very open person to talk and interact with my audience or whoever wants to chat. But you guys can follow me on that. But yeah, hopefully you're having a good Monday, good start to your week. Hopefully your weekends all went well, everybody. Hopefully. And I hope you guys are having a good kickstart to the week with everything. Now, I'm going to retract and go back to what I was talking about. But you guys know how I like to do it. I usually like to start this podcast off with something, whether it's what I'm talking to or a story kind of going on, whatever it might be. I like kind of setting the tone. But yeah, going into last night's game, man, where I was sitting, it was look, it's very unlikely they win. And sure, as I was saying, anything could happen. But this is a Steelers team who has been an average team all season long. They've been up, they've been down a lot, and they got lucky to get in the playoffs. It's simple as that. And as a fan, sure, it's always great when your team gets in the playoffs. And of course, I was cheering them on to do, to win, of course. I just didn't have any expectations for the game. I didn't expect us to win. Again, you have kind of the mindset, sure, anything can happen. But it was just wanting to just enjoy it, man. It's different if this is a Steelers team who wins 13-plus games, cream of the crop team, and falls short. Like, obviously, that's a lot different. And I hope all Steeler fans out there kind of share the same perspective that I have. Because there's really no reason to have certain expectations for this kind of team. I give the team a lot of credit, beating teams you needed to beat, finding ways to win, staying resilient, and still finding a way, though you're an average team, still finding a way to get yourself in the playoffs, in the dance. It says a lot about the heart. It says a lot about the coach, the organization. It says a lot about that. And I appreciate that as a fan, and I have forever. And I'm grateful that I'm a Steeler fan. I take a lot of pride in that. Not a lot of fans, man, can really, and especially after once the season's over and really at the end of last game, I was really just kind of sitting there and just really thinking of the last really 18 years. And not a lot of NFL fans can really have the same type of happiness and joy and all those things factored into in terms of really what the Steelers and the franchise has done the last day. Not a lot of fans can relate to that. Other than if you're maybe the Patriots or, some of these teams that usually are, have really good stability as a franchise, there's you can't really relate to that. And so us Steeler fans, man, we've had it so great these last 18 years, from obviously Super Bowls, from winning divisions, from always being competitive, playoff berths, playoff wins, heck, and obviously a Hall of Fame quarterback for 18 years. Not a lot of teams, not a lot of NFL fans can sit there and have that type of experience. And so I think a lot of Steeler fans have probably taken it kind of for granted over the years. And as we sit now, who knows really what direction this is going to go in. And that's a story for another day. I'm not even going to get into the offseason right now. We'll talk about it another time. I'm just going to talk about the Steeler game and other things that came out of the weekend. But for us Steeler fans, really, you got to be appreciative of the last 18 years, and especially knowing now that Ben Roethlisberger is done. That's really what this season was for me, was enjoying this final ride, enjoying the last time I'm going to see my favorite athlete ever play, enjoying the last time we're going to see one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time play, and just enjoying how much joy and happiness we've had as a fan base from this franchise and organization for 18 years of having Ben Roethlisberger. I think it's something to be celebrated, man. It shouldn't be a time where you're down, where you're crapping on the team. Honestly, it shouldn't be. It should be a time of where you're grateful, appreciative to be a Steeler fan. Now, yeah, there were frustrating things that happened in the game, obviously, but it wasn't just that game last night. It's been all season long. And I can talk about the offensive coordinator, Matt Canada. I can talk about the defensive coordinator, Keith Butler, all I want. Both of them should be gone. We all know this. Matt Canada, we know, has been a major problem for this offense. We know he has not been able to really adjust in this league. Nothing really he brings to the table is set apart from any other offense in the NFL. It's a very bland, predictable offense. Nothing about it gets you excited. Guys aren't utilized to the best of their abilities, I feel like. Keith Butler, the defense was very disappointing all season long. Sure, the defense has been better the last X amount of weeks, but really throughout the year, they've been the worst run defense in the NFL. Haven't really created a lot of turnovers. Yes, they lead the league in sacks. Yes, TJ Watt is Defensive Player of the Year, arguably the best player in the NFL this year, man. But aside from that, the defense just hasn't been good when it should have been. The offensive line was obviously atrocious, a lot worse than what we thought it was going to be, what I thought it was going to be. I thought this was going to be a better offensive line, bringing in a rookie center who's athletic, young, bringing in a guy like Trey Turner who's been pretty good throughout his career. Dan Moore, the rookie left tackle, we knew there were going to be some growing pains. Kevin Dotson to build off his second year. Having that perspective, you're definitely going to think that it's better than what we had last year, and it was worse. So, again, I'm not going to talk about the future going forward right now for the Steelers or what they need to do. If you guys want to listen to that, I do talk about it a little bit in depth from last week's show, but I'll be covering it in the offseason. I will, but that's not what I want to talk about. But I understand, of course there was frustration from last night's game. Absolutely. Not being able to do anything on offense. Not being able to get the ball down the field. Offensive line not being able to do anything with Najee Harris. Play calling. But that's been all year. It's been all year. And that's what I'm saying. Going into the game last night, this is exactly why it was best to not have any expectations. Because you know what kind of team this is. You know how they've been throughout the year. And it's not just going to happen where they just become this dominant team in the playoffs, taking out Kansas City and Buffalo and Tennessee and teams like that. Come playoff time, they're just not that team this year, folks. It's just been an average Steeler team this year. Yes, they've beat divisional opponents. They swept the Ravens. They swept the Browns. They got swept by the Bengals. They beat some good teams down the stretch, sure. Or teams that they needed to beat to have a chance, obviously, which they did. And I give the team a lot of credit. I give Mike Tomlin and everything a lot of credit this year. But it's just the reality of where they stand, where they stood this year. And I was going to say something else. I can't remember. But that's what I think. That's what I'm saying. Yes, and it sucks the season's over. It does. But it's going to be a very fun and interesting offseason for this team that us as fans have not seen in a very, very long time. Yes, the quarterback position headlines all of that. But the fact that they finally have a lot of cap room to finally work with, you better believe that they're going to be making some moves and being a little bit active in free agency more than what they have been. And this is a team where every offseason they're always against the cap, restructuring guys to create some money. Oh, we can't afford it. Well, it's a little bit different now. And yes, the draft too. But in terms of guys being brought back, who you need to extend, obviously quarterback, the big headline, and a lot of things that you can work with in free agency, it's going to be different, honestly. And it's honestly going to be very fun, and it's going to be very fun to talk about, and it's fun to fantasize and think about. But we haven't had that because of the guys we've had on our team, contracts they've had on the team, you know what I mean? And really, the last decade, the Steelers have obviously been a very competitive, strong team. Whether it's winning double-digit games, a few years kind of where you go 8-8 still, but you've had a lot of guys tied up throughout those years. And so now you have a lot of guys that aren't tied up, that are off the books, So it's going to be different. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think for us Steeler fans, we need to look forward to that. We know the season it was this year. We know the team we got this year. Let's just it was just all about, at least for me, and I do know a lot of other Steeler fans too, it was just all about kind of enjoying the final ride, hoping things would go well. They would have a successful season, which they won 9 games. Probably should have been 10. Shouldn't have tied the Lions, but whatever. And got in the playoffs and didn't go far. And honestly, that was my expectation. They really didn't fail my expectations this year. I said going into the season, you can date back my podcast. I said going into the season, I said, look, this is probably around a 10-win team. They won 9 games, almost won 10. I said, I view this team as a 10-win team. Gonna compete in the AFC North. Probably will find themselves in the playoffs and not go far. And that's exactly what happened. They competed in the AFC North, almost won 10 games, and they lost in the first round of the playoffs. That's just the way the team was. And I think a lot of Steeler fans probably had the similar expectations. There are probably Steeler fans that did not have those expectations and probably thought they were going to be ass, which I don't really know why, but nonetheless. So I really think it's just going forward after tonight's game, to really all the Steeler fans out there, it's really, I think at this point, really just being grateful these last 18 years, being appreciative, looking back on those things, and being excited about this kind of offseason, because it's going to be very different. There's going to be a lot of things that happen. So, but anyway, real quick about kind of going over the game. In the first quarter, it actually was, a little hopeful in the sense, okay, they're coming to play, it seems like. Might be a little closer. The Steelers forced the Chiefs to punt 3 times. And then Cam Hayward had a forced fumble on one of their backs, I believe, and TJ Watt scooped it up for a touchdown. And then, obviously, also TJ Watt caused the 1 interception turnover for Devin Bush. But the issue was, the defense honestly did what they could. The defense did a great job in the first quarter, and it was really what the Steelers could honestly hope for and couldn't have asked for anything more coming out of that first quarter. From stopping Kansas City, you created 2 big turnovers, one that led for a score. You couldn't really have asked for better. The offense is where it failed. The offense did not take advantage on the defense stopping Kansas City and making them punt 3 times. The offense did not take advantage of the one Kansas City turnover where Devin Bush intercepted it. The offense could not do anything. But this is how it's been all year long. The offense not being able to score first half touchdowns. The offense not being able to score opening drives. The offense not being able to have any form of consistency or balance and not being able to pass the ball. And yes, Najee Harris had 1,200 yards, but it's been a very inconsistent in terms of his games. And it's not his fault. So, when you face a team like Kansas City or any team that's very high-powered and can score points on you, you need to be able to, you got to pretty much play perfect football at this point, but you have to be able to score those points, and the Steelers could not do that. But by nobody's surprise, because that's how it's been this year. They haven't been a team to score many points. Games they won, they barely won by. That's this current state of the Steelers team. Ugly football, winning close games, finding ways to win. That's been their season. It's how it's been. And when you face a team like Kansas City and you make those stops like that and you have those 2 big turnovers, your offense has to score some points, and they did not do that. And at that point, there's nothing much else you can do because the Kansas City offense is going to eventually score here sooner or later, and they just kept racking up points after that. It's simple as that. And when you look at last night's game, honestly, Ben can't do it anymore. We all know that. I mean, Ben's had some good games this year, and he's had some pretty bad games this year. But when you see that, and when you see, the defense being torched, I mean, yeah, the defense honestly was pretty crap the second half. But I really thought they did a great job, really, the first half, especially the first quarter, and doing all they could. If they could have got some help from the offense, that would have kept Kansas City off the field even more, would have kept your defense off the field a little bit more, give them some more time, and you would have been in a position where you're either leading the game up to halftime or you're staying put with them from an offensive standpoint, and they couldn't do it. But really what we're seeing from the takeaways of this game, the Steelers obviously need to add some more talent. And I've been saying this, that they have a good amount of talent to work with going into next year. They're really not that far off from being a very strong competitive team. I'm not saying Super Bowl contender, but a very strong competitive playoff caliber team. They got to make the right decisions in the offseason to get there. But we saw that in terms of lack of talent on defense, coaching on both sides, quarterback play, offensive line play, Deontay Johnson again dropping balls, really not much speed from a receiver aspect. There's things they got to do, but they're not that far off from competing. So I was just sitting back, just want to enjoy the game, man. Hopefully you guys all did the same thing, but I'm very excited to see what this offseason has to hold. I want to transition into what we saw coming out of the weekend. Now, honestly, wildcard weekend honestly sucked. There was the Raiders and Bengals game was fairly well. Really got interesting at the end. But other than that, I mean, am I missing a game? I mean, Niners, Cowboys was kind of getting interesting at the end, but honestly, a pretty underwhelming wildcard weekend, man. So starting off with Saturday, the Bengals, Raiders. The Bengals finally win their first playoff game since 1990, and there were no text messages and all these kind of things they were talking about ever created since the last time, or the Bengals have not won a playoff game, with no text message. You guys know what I'm saying. You guys know what I'm talking about. Like, the last time they won a playoff game was before text messaging and before internet, pretty much, and all these different kind of things. And when you think about it, it's like, oh my God, So the Bengals finally win, and Joe Burrow is finally crowned as the man in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow is a great talent, and he's just going to keep getting better. I really like Joe Burrow coming out of college. His rookie year, obviously, with him kind of getting hurt a little bit later on in the season, kind of sucked. But Cincinnati is at the point where of what they've been building toward these last 6 years. They've had their franchise quarterback that they haven't really had. Andy Dalton never really was that. Andy Dalton was a quarterback they took in the second round that was good enough to win them games, but wasn't a long-term answer for that organization. Carson Palmer was kind of viewed as that guy, but he really, he wasn't really a true franchise quarterback. Joe Burrow seems to finally be that. And Cincinnati has a very strong young receiving core, an offensive core, and they've flourished a lot better defensively than where they've been. And so Cincinnati is, yes, they're heading the right direction, but what they've been building to these last 6 years is coming to fruition. And they'll probably add in free agency as well. So they're on the rise to where they need to be. So good on them. I'm not obviously, I don't like the Bengals, but I respect Joe Burrow a lot. I do like Mike Hilton, obviously, with him still being on the Steelers. And they're fun to watch. They are. But they beat the Raiders, and the Raiders, it's going to be interesting with the Raiders because Derek Carr, I believe, has 1 year left on his contract. The Raiders have not done this man. The Raiders have not done Derek Carr any favors ever since he got drafted in 15 or 16, whatever year it was. Derek Carr, I feel like, has always kind of been an above-average type of quarterback. Derek Carr is not a guy that's going to carry a franchise for 15-plus years or anything like that. But he's going to be a quarterback. I think he's going to be like a Kirk Cousins-esque kind of guy. An above-average quarterback, probably going to play for multiple teams, but he's a guy that can win you games and get you in the playoffs and is a potent quarterback. Now, I'm interested to see what the Raiders are going to do. If I had to guess, I'd say they're probably going to go in the offseason and build off the season they had and try to get back to that point and possibly farther next season. But do they trade Derek Carr? Do they have it kind of set in their mind that they're not going to extend Carr? I don't know. So that's something to look for. But the Bengals finally got their win against the Raiders. The Raiders had an opportunity at the end. But I think the big thing coming out of this game, other than Cincinnati finally winning a playoff game, was the officiating crew. And I believe the NFL said that they are not officiating another playoff game, which it's about time. There's no accountability in the NFL on officiating, but if players or coaches or anybody says a single bad word about an official, you're instantly fined. These guys need accountability. These guys obviously need some type of, I don't know what goes behind the scenes. And I'm pretty sure that they go back and they look at game film in terms of their performance. But the NFL needs something set up where there's accountability for these officials, and we've seen it year after year. But the NFL probably doesn't want to be looked at as, oh, we did wrong by who we've brought in or anything like that. But something needs to happen. So I'm honestly surprised that they said that crew ain't officiating the rest of the playoffs, which, see you later. Awful. But the Raiders did have a final opportunity there at the end to try to tie the game, and it did not work out, and Carr threw a pick, and that ended it. Sunday night game, Buffalo and New England. I thought this actually would have been a bit of a closer game, maybe not too high scoring. Buffalo blew them out of the water. New England looked like they didn't even come to play. Defense looked like the worst defense in the NFL, even though they've been a top 5 defense all year. The offense obviously couldn't do a single thing. And I was never big on New England anyway. Mac Jones just really wasn't doing it for me his rookie year. Yes, he was winning games. But Mac Jones, to me, doesn't really spew the talent in the sense of, like, quarterback arm and extending plays, making plays. You're down 21 points and just being able to get the ball down the field. Like, he's not... And yes, it's not like he has a lot of really good talent around him anyway. And I'm not writing the guy off either. I'm just saying this season, this is why I wasn't really big on them. But they did go 10-7. Their defense played really well throughout the regular season. But Buffalo just slaughtered them. They had absolutely zero answer from Buffalo and Josh Allen. Josh Allen played I think, almost a perfect game. Buffalo and Kansas City next week, though. So we'll see if Buffalo gets the win or not, or if it's going to be Kansas City again. I don't know. We'll see if Josh Allen gets over the hump. But very talented quarterback. Buffalo's had a pretty good defense throughout the year. Obviously, they're not really too run-heavy as a team. But they just absolutely annihilated New England, and I'm sure Buffalo fans and the Buffalo organization themselves We're getting you back for 20 years of dominance, with Brady and Belichick all those years. So they took care of them Sunday night. It wasn't even a game. Saturday night, going into Sunday, Philadelphia at Tampa Bay. I didn't think this was going to be much of a game, and it really wasn't. Jalen Hurts played awful. Philly's defense couldn't stop a fly. Tom Brady doing what he does without even not having Godwin. Obviously, AB's gone. Fournette and Ronald Jones both did not play. Tampa Bay's defense just all over the place, not being able to give any running room to the Eagles' running game, which has been the best in the league. Picking off Hurts a couple times, forcing turnovers, getting Tampa Bay in good field position, and Tom Brady executing what he does. Tampa Bay is on to the next round. And then the 4:30 game was, who am I missing here? Who am I missing the 4:30 game? Why am I blanking out on the... San Francisco and Dallas. I don't know why I was blanking out. I knew Dallas was just going to screw this up. And this is just a common theme for them. It's either they go 8-8 or they screw it up in the playoffs. It's one way or another. Dallas's play calling was atrocious. Dallas's defense was atrocious. Jimmy G, man, I know a lot of people kind of don't like him, and I'm not really that biggest fan of him. I think he's kind of an average quarterback. But you got to give credit to him, man. He took the Niners to Super Bowl, I believe, his first year there. Obviously, 2020 was just depleted for them. And this year, wins another playoff game. I don't think Jimmy G's as bad as what people maybe want to point him as. He's an average quarterback, but he knows how to win games. I don't think that should be taken away from him at all. Look at his record as the Niners quarterback. Look at already what he's accomplished. We'll see where he ends up next year, but San Francisco won 23-17, I believe was the final score. And San Francisco Jimmy G did throw a key interception there at the end. It didn't really result much for Dallas except for really a field goal. And then Dallas got the ball back at the end with, I don't know how much time was left. I'm trying to think how much time was left. I think they got the ball back with like 50-some, 40-some seconds. And the Niners were giving up some pretty big yardage, but Prescott ran a QB draw to try to get some more extra yards to the point where he can get the ball in the end zone. And it seemed like he ran about 5 or 10 more yards farther than he should have. And it really kind of ruined the clock management. His clock was winding down. They had no timeouts. He tried to spike it. Ref didn't touch the ball really yet, and time ran out. I don't know what Dallas does, man. I really don't. I mean, if you're a Cowboys fan, I would just be so sick of this stuff. Really. It's the same stuff every year. 2020, they didn't make the playoffs. 2019, did they make the playoffs 2019? I know in 2016 they made, the NFC Championship or something like that. But they fell short, the following years after that. The Romo days, again, 8-8, falling short in the first or divisional round. They just haven't been able to get over the hump, man. Do you bring back Mike McCarthy? Dan Quinn seems to have done a pretty good job with their defense. What do you do with Kellen Moore? I've seen he's been getting interviews as a head coach. I don't know. But that's frustrating as a Cowboys fan. I'll tell you that right now. But they didn't go on, then obviously Steelers, Kansas City. So tonight we got the Rams and Cardinals, which I'm actually excited about. I think that this will be kind of a close game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I am picking the Rams. I did have the Rams minus 3.5, by the way. But with the Cardinals, man, yes, J.J. Watt's back, but the Cardinals' offense has just been regressing and regressing. Kyler's not making enough plays. Receivers aren't stepping up. The Cardinals' defense doesn't necessarily look the way it did throughout the year. This is a big win for the Cardinals. This is a big playoff game for the Cardinals. This is obviously their biggest game since the NFC Championship in 2015 for them. So Hopkins ain't back yet. I don't know if he's going to be back for the playoffs if they go on. But if they lose this game, do they move on from Kingsbury? That's a question. If you're a Cardinals fan watching this, let me know in the comments section. What are your thoughts on that? I'm not a big fan of him. I think that the Cardinals come to not even play, look like zombies. Sleepwalking needs to go. Vance Joseph probably needs to go. He's been getting talked to for head coaching opportunities. But now if they do come to play, now if they win, obviously, yeah, I mean, you're going to move forward, clearly. But if they come to win and it's a hard-fought game, maybe you do keep him around. I'm just not big on Cliff Kingsbury's leadership. I'm not big on him in terms of really trusting him in big-time situations, especially as we saw last season and the collapse last year. He's got to prove things to really have faith. And I'm not somebody who... I honestly hate seeing when organizations just fire coach after 1 or 2 years. I believe this is his third. But he doesn't do it for me. Now, but the Cardinals, they'll probably keep him around because they made the playoffs. They won 10, 11 games, however much it was, and they improved. So they'll probably keep him. But we'll see how it does tonight. Should be a fun game. I'm saying Rams 24-17, maybe 24-20, 27-20, 27-23, around there. I think they'll cover. But we'll see what happens there. And then going into next week, we have San Francisco, Green Bay on Saturday. And then it's going to be waiting on this matchup to see who faces Tampa Bay. Obviously, Buffalo at KC. And then we got Cincinnati at Tennessee going in next week, too. So we got some interesting matchups and everything to look at. With there's not really too much NFL news coming out yet. I mean, there's a lot of head coaching vacancies out there. I'm excited to see what this offseason will hold. But obviously, as the playoffs are going on, really not much is going to go down. But we're going to end it there, folks, on episode 50 of In Hindsight, going about 36, 37 minutes here. But I thank each and every one of you for tuning in. And just kind of wanted to get my thoughts out there coming out of the game Sunday night, man. And, really just briefly what we kind of saw coming out of the weekend. So we'll be back. Won't be tomorrow because I've been working Tuesdays every single week. We'll be back sometime later this week or the weekend. Follow my Facebook page, folks, at In Hindsight if you want to keep up with the channel and when I will be back for more content. But hit the thumbs up, hit the sub, guys, if you haven't. It helps out with the channel and pushing the video out more. Let me know in the comments your guys' thoughts on this videos. Let me know your comments on the playoffs, whatever it might be. And you guys, again, can follow me as well. Twitter, Nate_Heintz, and Instagram, Nathan_Heintz. So your guys' support means so much. Have a great rest of the week, guys. We will see you either later this week or this weekend for episode 51. Take care.